Conducting any audience feedback is critical in creating any form of media product that will appeal to that of a specific demographic. Before starting work on my short film, it was imperative that I define the age, gender, and socio-economics of my target audience. I asked to target females aged between 13 to 18 in the C2 demographic and come under the mainstream psychographic. I constructed an audience profile of a typical member that would come under this, and it aided me into understanding the audience type that I was focusing on. As well as being highly important, the audience research is useful when practically developing my ideas. After coming up with an initial idea for my short film, the first stage of target audience research that I was to carry out was a short film questionnaire. The questions asked features aspects such as sound, character, location, pace, and music. Research done at this early stage enabled me to obtain initial suggestions from the audience for my short film. There are multiple advantages to distributing a questionnaire. The format of any questionnaire allows my target audience to answer their opinions anonymously and uninfluenced through individual responses in a qualitative format, allowing them to put across their opinions and judgments. Within my questionnaire, consisting of 10 questions, I was able to ask an array of questions ranging from whether they think a social drama should be fast or slow-paced, to whether they would prefer to hear instrumental or lyrical music throughout my film. This was vital in formulating my ideas and determining some of the most noticing aspects of the film that I needed to be aware of before I started the pre-production process for my short film. Before gathering up responses on my questionnaire, I went through each question and justified what I wanted to get out of it and achieve from the questions. I questioned 20 people within my target audience and studied the responses from the questionnaire and wrote up a paragraph as well as the implications for each of the responses as an overall view and whether I believed that the ideas would have a positive or negative impact within my short film. To get a more in-depth response after having completed my questionnaire and applied various ideas to my short film, I then constructed questions for a focus group interview containing my primary target audience of females aged between 13 to 18. This enabled me to refine my developed ideas based on the various characters, locations, genre, and other areas. There are also other areas that are positive when conducting a focus group. By using a focus group, this enabled me to have an open discussion, giving me the opportunity to gain detailed, qualitative data and enable more flexibility compared to that of a structured questionnaire. I also had the ability to talk to my chosen group through my ideas, as well as building up a rapport with them in a face-to-face conversation. This enabled me to understand my audience's preferences and opinions better. I filled my focus group so that I was able to refer back to it, as well as my questionnaires, throughout production and also post-production. Early on within the pre-production process, I knew that I would have to refer to my target audience in reference to my title. As I knew that this would be a very appealing aspect to my film, I prepared an audience film title survey. I put forward my very own ideas of titles, as well as giving them the option to think of new and interesting titles that may appeal to myself as well as an audience like themselves. The survey allowed me to effectively and quickly question a large number of people from my primary and secondary target audiences. I gave them the option of a yes or no question to whether they liked my chosen title, and if no, they were able to write down a chosen title of their own. I firstly came up with the film title Regret, but I wanted a more powerful and memorable title. I researched other words for regret and noticed the word penitence. I believed that this would be a memorable and powerful film title, which I then consulted my audience with within the survey. They said that my chosen title would be successful, and I found that they all liked the sound of it connecting with the storyline. Having near finalised the idea for my storyline, I then went on to creating an animatic so that I was able to have a visual idea of what my final piece would look like. Near completion, I conducted peer assessment feedback on my animatic. Just about coming within the age range of my target audience, they were able to give crucial feedback on key features such as editing, cinematography, and content, and whether any part of the storyline could be changed to make it more effective for my final edit. My peers were able to assess my animatic and write down opinions on a ready-made table. I knew that my animatic didn't include the final piece of music that I was going to use, as well as not including the narrative that was to go over the top of my sequence to add greater understanding to my film. When creating my animatic, I found that some shots weren't needed and could easily be cut out and replaced with other shots that would enhance the storyline. After having decided the title for my film, I was unsure whether to place the film title at the beginning or the end. My target audience suggested that it would be more effective to be seen at the very end of the film, which I took on board and did this exact thing when it came to completing my final edit. Despite the fact that the planning for the film itself had been completed, I continued gathering data from my target audience. This was shown throughout the production of my film poster when I turned to my target audience members multiple times in order to gain understanding of what they would most like to see and what would most appeal to them. After having roughly sketched out 3 possible designs, influenced by film posters during my research stage, such as Unstoppable, I handed my poster to my peers, aged 17 to 18, on which they found their least to most favourite. Finding these results was as easy as placing the 3 posters in front of them, asking them to write their names on post-it notes given to them, and placing their note on the preferred poster. Once all feedback was complete, I discovered that the most favourable version was the poster with 2 characters facing each other on the 2 separate sides of paper, being divided with the line in between, keeping with the split-screen idea of the film. When it came to editing for my final poster, however, my storyline had been changed slightly by this point. I then sketched out 3 posters that ran along similar appearances to the first 3, and I again got together a few people from within my target audience, and they chose their most favourite. They decided that the poster with the protagonist looking away from the camera was the most impacting and successful to advertise and run alongside my short film. Conventional to many social drama posters, I decided to keep this poster in colour rather than editing it into a black and white version. I briefly consulted a few people from within my target audience about whether they thought an unsaturated effect on my poster would be more effective than the full saturated version, as it would complement the colouring from within my short film. 85% of them liked this idea, which I then applied to my poster throughout the editing process. Completing my first edit meant that I could conduct some more peer assessment feedback on my primary target audience and find out their own views and opinions on my first edit, as well as having an opportunity to briefly show them my incomplete film poster. This peer assessment came back generally positive, with peers commenting on good use of cinematography, sound and editing. The biggest criticisms that my peers had were that of the lighting within some shots, in that it was too low-key and they were unable to identify some aspects within some of the frames. These minor issues were easy to fix by simply altering the brightness in some of these shots, and as my first edit was slightly over the time limit, the ability to take some of these darker shots out worked to my advantage. As my film poster wasn't quite completed, they commented that they so far thought that the image of the female was very effective and impacting to a wide audience.